According to the World Bank in 2012, there were about 650 million mobile phone subscribers in Africa. To put this number in perspective, it is more than the combined populations of US, Canada, and Mexico. African mobile subscribers have these technologies in their hands. What services can you, our young entrepreneurs, deliver to them? That's the question that I have. I know that we have some very interesting internet services coming up, and we have young retailers like Jomai.com and Konga.com, which are being managed by recent HBS alums. Do they happen to be in this audience? No, but this is something I think we need to give them a hand. They operate essentially like Amazon.com for the Nigerian market. And of course, there are a number of other innovative applications that we are all very familiar with. Everybody knows about Pesa, which has spread from Kenya all over East Africa now. I also want to talk about an example that I saw a few days ago, which the people who brought it to me called democratizing energy. Some investors came to my office to pitch an idea which I fell in love with. They had a product which, like the mobile phone, you know, if it can be properly managed and invested in, could bring energy to the bottom of the pyramid consumers. So what's their idea? Well, they realized that for solar energy, which many people are, you know, coming up with applications of, the initial capital investment cost for a solar panel of about $300 is too high for many low-income households. So they devised a financing solution using mobile payments, where the consumer can now install the technology at home for a small fee, and then make payments by SMS on a weekly or monthly basis to activate the discharge of this solar energy. You can Google them at Nova Lumos to learn more. I thought this was a very, very clever idea. And a very clever idea. I mean, the solar energy panel they brought is not too large, and the lamp was really, really very bright as the one you can see up there. And you know, you can get with a small 50-cent fee or 75 cents, rural households and poor households can get access to light. We are not going to be able to have on-grid solutions for everyone, so this is an off-grid solution. And it's also scalable from one panel to 2 to 3, so that small entrepreneurs, the tailor down the street, the welder, can also have access to electricity. So this is an application, and I said, this is very interesting. These were young Israeli entrepreneurs. If they can do these things, and I know that we are coming up with many more. Of course, we've got the M-Pedigree, which you've all heard about, which helps us with monitoring fake drugs. And then e-wallets. To cite the public sector example in Nigeria, we recently, especially through the Minister of Agriculture, implemented an e-wallet payment scheme. And there's great skepticism about it at home. Many people do not believe, but under this scheme, rural farmers are receiving vouchers for purchase of agricultural inputs, seeds and fertilizers directly on their mobile phones. And I think with time, people will come to believe that this application will have a very great impact on the way agriculture is done in the country. So what am I saying? Basically, mobile telephony provides a platform to implement a whole range of applications on our continent, and I hope you take advantage of it. Let me also mention briefly light manufacturing. Today, there's research which shows that Asian economies are gradually slowing down as their wage costs begin to rise. The prediction is that Africa will emerge as the next preferred destination for labor-intensive manufacturing of goods, such as garments and shoes. This is an opportunity for Africa's entrepreneurs and engineers. Let us remember that we provide a huge domestic market, will soon be 1 billion people with a growing middle class. And so those that are able to enter into this kind of market and entrepreneurship will be the first thing to make a great deal of money. McKinsey estimated that consumer spending in Africa hit about $1 trillion last year. And the Chinese seem to have spotted this opportunity and are beginning to open many of these labor-intensive type of factories in Africa. For example, the Gujian Group factory they opened there is a very good example. The creative arts sector cannot be left behind. I know I don't want to talk about Nollywood, which you're all familiar with, but it is creating a lot of jobs. And there's still room there to burnish our product, make the quality better, and in doing so, create large numbers of jobs for our young people. And I leave it to you all to figure out how to do this and have a truly global impact. African fashion, the fashion industry holds great promise, and some of our fashion-conscious MPAs can help take it to the next level. In 2010, Actis acquired the Lisco Group, which makes Dutch wax fabric, for US $151 million. They came and saw me, and they are motivated by the potential of the African fashion market, not just for traditional wear like I have on, but also for modern contemporary outfits. I believe there's a huge opportunity here. Let me end with a very interesting area in which I feel there's a lot of opportunity, which is housing and real estate. In Nigeria, we are intent on creating a housing market. You will not believe we have 20,000 mortgages in a country of 167 million. And there's a huge opportunity in the housing sector. We are 17 million units in deficit, with 2 million units to be added each year. But the big reason we have this deficit is because we do not have a housing finance sector that can really take up the slack. So we're creating that. We're creating a Nigerian mortgage refinance company to be private sector owned with government participation, which will help us securitize and be able to refinance mortgages. And we hope that this, with a concerted attack to deal with several of the problems, such as dealing with foreclosure issues, land titling, making this faster, is going to unleash the potential of housing. And as you know, housing has many forward and backward linkages within the economy. This is going to unleash a large number of jobs. We have several states that have agreed to be pilot states like Lagos, the Federal Capital Territory, Bauchi, Anambra, and so on. What we want to do is work with a few states, since it's such a large country, cement this and then make it nationwide. And it's very exciting to think that by the end of this year, or at the latest, the beginning of next year, young professional people might actually be able to walk in and get a mortgage to buy a home. I believe this will give hope to thousands and millions of young people in our country, that this is something that they can attain in their lifetime. So let me now conclude with a few thoughts. Last month I was in Monrovia attending the UN high-level panel meeting on the Millennium Development Goals, convened by President Sirleaf. I hope we're not having a NEPA moment. The Nigerian Electric Power Authority, which became PHCN, but in Nigeria, when things don't work, we call it a NEPA moment. Let me conclude. I was in Monrovia last month attending the UN high-level panel meeting on the Millennium Development Goals, convened by President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, Prime Minister Cameron of the UK, and President Yudhoyono of Indonesia. We were discussing the post-2015 development agenda. That is, the next set of development targets which should be adopted once the Millennium Development Goals come to an end in 2015. And as you can imagine, many panelists had their suggestions for new targets in poverty reduction, tackling climate change, and so on. These targets are likely to span 2015 to 2030, so they are really targets for your generation to implement. In Monrovia, I made the point that young Africans today do not want to be thinking about disease, poverty reduction, infant mortality, and so on. Many in the young generation tell me they are interested in hearing about investments, job creation, and economic growth. That is, I'm not saying, or they were not saying to me, that aid will no longer be relevant, but rather they see aid as increasingly leveraging and facilitating private investments. And the theme of this conference, the emergence of a new African story, reinforces this view. I'm very confident that the Africa of tomorrow, the Africa that your generation inherits, would be better governed, would be stronger economies, would create more jobs for the labor force, and ultimately would be more prosperous. But it can only be all these things if you yourself apply yourself to the problem. I always tell the young generation in Africa that it's not only about what your policymakers can do or should do, it's also about what you as an individual can do. How are you applying yourself to solve the problems, however difficult the entry back into your country is? How can you apply yourself to make a difference? The third US President, Thomas Jefferson, once remarked that he quote, liked the dreams of the future better than the history of the past. I think the same can be said of my view for Africa in the coming years. I'm really optimistic that you, the next generation of entrepreneurs and young professionals, will rise to this challenge in contributing to a more prosperous continent. You are the reason why I am optimistic, and I hope and know that you will deliver. Thank you.